So I first was to ask everybody, who has heard of Easton-Bell Sports? Good. A lot more than I thought. Well, needless to say, I wanted to introduce who our brand was and kick off with kind of a short video.
Tomorrow is ours because of the time we put in today. We will be smarter and faster, more resilient, more clever, more vocal, more open, and maybe a little less serious. We're devoted to sports and the people who play them. We vow to make them safer and stronger and better. When we fail, we learn. When we win, we improve. Because our direction is ever forward. Our passion is always with purpose. Our success, humbly inevitable.
I've never seen a better game than you.
This is our time. Tomorrow is ready. Let's take it. Take tomorrow.
All right. So this is kind of an internal video, Take Tomorrow, kind of an internal mantra that we have within our company. And the reason I show it to you is really, when I tell people I work for Easton-Bell Sports, the first thing out of their mouth is, oh, you guys make bats or wheels or one of an individual product line that really is part of a much bigger company. Our bats is one product line within one sport, within one brand of our company. And oftentimes we really have to explain who we are because we're very new in terms of having all these brands under our company. In reality, we have 4 core brands, and that's Riddell, Easton, Bell, Giro, and Blackbird. But within each one of those brands, we have different verticals. We've got baseball, hockey, lacrosse, softball, cycling, snow sports, power sports, all across the board, each with their own diverse set of stories and brand identities within each one of them. And if you take it even a step more further, within cycling, there's a lot of different granularity, whether it's mountain, road, tri, or power sports has its own feel. Within softball, there's slow pitch versus fast pitch. And the reason I'm telling you this is simply because all these things, as it relates to e-commerce and our e-commerce strategy, are kind of core things. Each one of these products, each one of these brands has their own core product line. They have a diverse product line. They have a diverse market segment. They have a diverse consumer, diverse competitors, from the brand level to the sport level to even the product line level. So each one has its own unique brand identity that we need to accomplish both in terms of our storefronts as well as telling our brand experiences across our sites. Now, our company as a whole is very new. Riddell, Giro, Easton, Riddell, they've all just formed a merger within the past 4 to 5 years. So as a company in and of itself, we're going through a complete restructuring process, trying to streamline our business process, trying to find out what our core competencies are and integrating them across all of our brands, trying to create shared resources from IT to customer service to shipping. All these things are happening. Since the day I started with this company, we've been restructuring, reorganizing, optimizing our experience to create a better brand for our company. Now, while at the same time, we have new leadership, a new CEO, new executive team who have a different idea of what of how to grow this business than they were as individual entities, and that being moving forward, seeing the digital space as an opportunity to grow our brands. Because we're not in a high growth sector. We're not a technology company. We're going to see a hockey stick spike year in and year out. There's really only 3 ways that we can grow our brands, and that's by developing new product lines, by taking market share from our competitors, and by increasing our margins, that being e-commerce. Now, for our business as a whole, we've been primarily a wholesale business. We've never shipped an individual bat to anybody. So it's been a lot more than just designing what your websites are going to look like, what the shopping cart looks like, but restructuring our entire business model to both complement or to support our wholesale business and not alienate them, while at the same time creating this new sector, this new B2C opportunity, and create consumer engagement with our brands. So it's been a pretty big overhaul from getting from A to B in a very short amount of time frame, because as a priority within our company and within your companies, once you have set those global priorities, you're moving 100 miles a minute. So we went through a pretty exhaustive RFP process. We saw 12 to 15 different vendors for every platform, every model. We really went exhaustive. This was never meant to be an experiment with us. That we're going to start with one brand and see if sales come in and see how it works and then roll it out if this happens and that happens. This has always been a priority for us to move forward and have all of our brands rolled out across a different platform. And going with Magento was a pretty easy decision for us because in a lot of the details I told you about, all these different brand sectors, consumer segments, we're not trying to create just a storefront. We're trying to create brand experiences, which in turn we believe is going to drive the sales from A to B and increase our margin and our opportunity. For Magento, that made it easy, flexible scalability, being able to create these brand experiences while at the same time creating a unified platform across these brands. So we can roll things out from one brand to the next in a seamless fashion. That's going to make our in-house development, design, and marketing process very streamlined across our brands. But what that meant for our business, as I said, is bringing everything in-house. Being Magento, you need to support that. Having our own servers, our own hosting environments, our own design development teams, having customer service, shipping, inventory, demand planning, all these things that we've never had at an e-commerce and individual level are things that we've had to roll out across our company. So that's a pretty big commitment to make, and you can't do that lightly, and certainly not for an individual brand as an experiment. So it was really all-in commitment that this is what we're going to roll out across our company, and Magento was the right platform to help support that. So I think this slide kind of speaks for itself. I mean, the first rollout is the toughest. Nothing is easy. We started this process about 2 years ago, and all of our brands are in various different stages of design, development, scoping, optimization. So not all of the brands I've showed you today are on Magento or eCommerce, but all part of a unified strategy going forward. And we started with baseball a little under 2 years ago, and actually launched almost a year ago today with that brand. And needless to say, there's certainly bumps in the road. As I talked about, we weren't just defining what our core requirements are for developing websites or integration with our ERP system, but redefining our entire business structure and getting buy-in across those business functions to support those efforts from the start to finish. And with baseball, this was going to define all the rollouts across our brands and how and what our business objectives are and how the sites were going to be defined and how they would be managed, maintained, etc. So, we took an extended period of time to make that happen. We had all of our core talent in the room. We went through an exhaustive business strategic sessions before we even started rolling out across our business functions. And what we learned through that process is no matter how much we define the plan, until you get into the nuts and bolts and details and start learning the platform, learning what your capabilities are and aren't, you're going to have some hurdles along the way. So it was kind of a roller coaster ride. We would constantly think we solved something, and then it would open a new door to something else along that process. But it was so critical that we got everything right the first time in order to roll this out across each one of our different brands. Nevertheless, we're still optimizing. We're still going back and finding things that we missed, different processes as we roll out additional brands, as technologies change, as Magento evolves, as our business structure evolves going forward. We good? Is there another slide there? No? Okay. There's a slide in there that just talks about it gets easier. After we launched baseball, it took about 9 months period of time. Giro came on next shortly thereafter, and it was about 5 months period of time. And Easton-Cycling, which is launching next week, took about 3 months period of time. And I know everybody wants to get out into market as quickly as humanly possible, and those months, those time frames to build these sites is a bit misleading in that behind the scenes we were planning ahead. We were designing for Giro while we were in baseball. We were actually developing Easton-Cycling in Magento without e-commerce functionality before we got to implementing the shopping cart and the integration with the ERP system. So we were planning ahead in order to escalate these opportunities. And how we're able to do that, though, is because we established this core. The Magento core was there was going to be transferred from one site to the other. All were going to be brought on the singular system. So everything else had already been defined. We got better in terms of the scope and requirement documents once we really got in and learned the system from baseball. And as we rolled these out, it became, not to oversimplify it, but it certainly got more streamlined, and the process became smoothly. We have kickoff meetings for every brand we're launching And we have ongoing meetings thereafter, and they keep getting more silent and more silent because everybody knows their function across their role within the development process. And we have core teams who are defining those things each step of the way. It's not a revolving door. So what we've learned really with each one of those processes, each one of these rollouts, are mastering these core fundamentals. These are the things that have helped us move faster and streamline this process. And defining the business and system requirements to account for all brands, thinking ahead. I mean, when we're defining baseball, we're thinking about, well, what does Easton cycling, what do those wheels need that's going to be different for the consumer experience or the back-end functionality or different feature set or whatever it is that's going to be needed for the brands coming up ahead. Because we want all of our brands to have some sort of systematic cohesiveness across them and synergies, and able to support them. If we're changing one brand, we can replicate that on another. We weren't trying to reinvent the wheel or have a bunch of different sites doing many different things. It's not supportable that way. So as we got through the process, defining our requirements became simpler and simpler and simpler, but you always need to revisit that process. Getting the support across the business and establishing those clear lines. So whoever is working, who is involved in e-commerce on the shipping side, on the demand planning and inventory, who's ever involved on customer service, they're a part of the process for each one of these brands. So they're learning, they're being trained, and they're passing on this information to anybody new that comes along into that process. And things we've learned along the way in terms of the feature set, the security, reporting, the integration. These are all things that are part of our checklist process that have to come into play with every brand that you roll out. But again, it's established, it's refined, and it becomes streamlined as you go along. Testing, no matter how many times you do this, it's absolutely critical that you have that process in place and you replicate it over and over and over again before you unleash your sites to the world. And these are really the steps that we're going through at each turn. And lastly is really managing our wholesale business. It's still different for every brand that we have. Our dealer base is different for cycling than it is baseball, than it is Riddell football or hockey. And so we have to be planning ahead for how we're going to communicate our strategies, how we're going to roll this out, and how it's going to affect their business. And it's different for every brand depending on distribution, depending on a variety of different factors. So there's a slide that's out of place. So in terms of creating synergies, I think there's two key components to that, and that's front end and back end. And when I talk about front end, I'm talking not just the user experience, but also the admin interface. Building our sites out with some core shared modules, shared features, and functionalities that can be replicated across our brands to create some consistency for the user experience as a developing site, but it's also in terms of managing your sites going forward. You can use various different sites as your test case, different brands, because you have some consistency across them. So if you want to try something new here and you evaluate and find out it's working, you can replicate it very easily across these other brands. In many cases, that means it's a shared module within the code. So that when there's an upgrade with Magento, there's an upgraded feature set, we can apply this very seamlessly across the other brands. In other cases, it's shared features, both on the front end and admin side, that do need to be developed individually across each one of the brands. But we already have an established code base. We already have established that we can replicate that across the brands and test and change throughout the process. And we want to make sure our consumers, if they go to cycling, they go to Giro, they go to Easton Baseball, they're getting the same quality experience from each one of them. And that any one of our team, our marketers, our designers, our developers, they can go into any one of these sites and be able to design, develop, manage the catalog, et cetera, in a very seamless, streamlined manner. So you're not learning something new with each site that you go through. The back-end synergies, kind of what I talked about regarding a shared code base and being able to work off of one upgrade system, one shared module base, but also more importantly are the shared support teams and having people who are dedicated to the e-commerce functionality. Why that's mostly important is simply you think across all these brands, all these different verticals, we've got 100 people working on this site, but in reality, we have a pretty lean team. These are different core functionalities from our SAP team to our technical team, our front-end design, marketing, customer service. They're working across all these brands. So you don't have to jump into e-commerce not knowing what you need and hiring 10 customer service people and 15 marketers and all these designers are trying to support this from in-house. You can start really small and strategically grow your resources as the need arises. And we've been able to support this number with a pretty small team, and it's extremely productive simply because of the streamlined process that we have and the shared features and functionalities across the brands. So, with the development and everything, there's always the challenges that you face, and I talked a little bit about it from a baseball perspective, but we're continuously finding new challenges as we go along. I mean, that's just the nature of it. It's an evolving space, and the digital space and e-commerce is constantly about improving your performance and creating great experiences for your consumers. Some of the challenges that we certainly face are those initial design decisions. The sites you may have now or you're planning to develop, really thinking forward in terms of where you're going to go with your business and what that looks like 3, 5, 10 years down the road. It's pretty important. Now, you're not going to nail it all the first time, but getting it right the first time is going to alleviate the headaches down the road. And when you're applying it to other brands, you're just creating more problems for every brand that you bring on. So it's imperative that you really take your time in terms of understanding what your scope and your direction is to get that moving. Learning the technical aspects of Magento is also another area of challenge that we didn't know until we got in there. You get your demo and you see, oh, it's got all the great features we need, but really we have customized our sites. Our sites are very different than anybody else's sites that are out there. It's a really positive thing about Magento that it can be customized and scalable, but at the same time, Magento is a complicated platform that you have to really learn and know in order to be able to optimize it effectively and to apply that knowledge base to the other brands. And finding a Magento experience, although it's growing and people are gaining this skill set, and if you have people with PHP experience or Java or other skill sets that apply to Magento that can be teachable, if that's a word, there's opportunity there. But it is important that you have people in-house who understand and learn and know the ins and outs of your core platform. So the road ahead, I mean, we're never stopping. We have more brands that are coming on. Just within the next 6 months, we have 4 more brands that are coming on. We have Easton Cycling, as I mentioned, launching next week. So we're pretty much full steam ahead across the board. And we're finally to the point where we're optimizing not just our sites, but also our marketing efforts and driving sales. We're not in just development and building business scope mode, but we're optimizing for sales and where this business is going to be down the road as it relates to our business as a whole. Refining the sites is continuous and creating a unified sales system. So although we have these different brands and we're building them separately on this unified core base, there's a lot of commonalities and shared consumers that we have across the board. To really grow our brands, we need to tap into our entire consumer marketing set. If I went and bought a bat at Easton Baseball and I can get a Giro helmet all at the same time, I think you're simplifying the consumer's process if those are the sports that you're interested in. So these are the types of things we're looking at and moving forward, how to integrate that, how to create a unified or shared customer database, and be able to market more effectively across each one of these brands or holistically under the Easton-Bell umbrella, because we do have a lot of shared technologies, shared just capabilities. We are a leader in the sports industry, and most people don't know it. They just see us as individual brands, so we need to make people aware of everything that we have going on. With new technologies, innovation, I mean, it just goes without saying. Magento is a platform that allows for flexibility to constantly innovate and add new technologies, utilize different CMS systems, and we use WordPress and we use other things that help us tell our brand stories outside of the catalog, where we have a lot of rich content and video, and social integration, things of that nature. It's a constant, continuous improvement, and these are things I've kind of talked about throughout the presentation. But these are the core fundamental things that we're focused on in improving to grow our brands and apply them to the latest new sites that we have, or rolling back to the sites that we have previously to make sure that we're continuously getting better at what we do. Just talking briefly, I mean, I've heard a lot of conversation about mobile. I mean, this is certainly an area of growth. You've heard the statistics. I mean, the number of people using smartphones to buy products online. For us, particularly with all the rich content that we have, we need to create a more mobile and tablet experience that is about the shopping experience or finding content in a more seamless manner in the medium that you're in. Our site doesn't really account for that. And the fortunate thing about Magento is that they're growing, and they have new programs and new innovation and technologies, and this is part of their new beta program that we're participating in and launching a new mobile, both iPhone, iPad, tablet, and Android over the next couple weeks, which is pretty exciting for us, and I think it's a space we need to be in, particularly when you're targeting a 15-year-old kid who's growing up with a smartphone in his hand. Even if it's not exactly what they want right now, finding products, doing your research and homework, but also utilizing that as a marketing tool to build a mobile database, to share content, tell product stories through that medium. It's pretty important. And of course, social integration is critical. I mean, this is where people are spending their time, and you need to fish where the fish are. So that's not just within their networks, but also in your site to drive people to those areas. And the great thing about Magento is that it allows that capability to integrate these platforms and capabilities. The challenges around that, though, are we have lots of brands. You can't do them all at once. You have to start with one. You've got to figure out what's working, what's not, and then you can apply them to the other ones. There's too many things, too many brands, and too many opportunities. You got to really pick and choose what's going to really move the needle. Just kind of in closing, I mean, on the theme of imagine the imagine theme, and we're a company built on dreams, on imagining, and on if you play sports. That is your philosophy, and as it relates to Magento, imagining the possibilities is why we got involved with it across our brands, to be able to be flexible and scalable, as I talked about, and really adapting and growing our brands within the space. Obviously, cost efficiency and resource efficiency are critical, and why we really appreciate and enjoy the Magento platform, and why it works across all our brands. And simply put, we just see the growth and potential in all the people contributing to Magento as a real opportunity to grow our brand fast, and that's the marching orders we have. So again, on this theme, I kind of close with a short video that kind of ties into it a little bit around our Easton brand, called Dream Crazy, and it's kind of around the same concept. So just thinking about a little bit bigger than you are.
This is not the sound of innovation, or months and months of research and development. It's the sound of an 8-year-old getting his first hit. The sound of the national championship being won in the bottom of the 11th. We sport, therefore we dream. Wild, improbable, magnificent things. Crazy things. Of farther and faster, higher and stronger. Of greater and greatest. Until one day, one moment, those wild, improbable, magnificent things aren't so crazy.
Sports is fun.